Let's take a look at different ways to start the Excel program. One of the ways is to locate a file for Excel and double click the file and it opens Excel right up. Another method would be to come out here on a folder or just right here on the desktop. You can right click the desktop and choose New and then choose Microsoft Excel Worksheet. It'll create a brand new file which you can rename at this point, or you could just double click it and it will start Excel as well. Still another method for getting out here and starting Excel would be to use the Run box. Now if you come out here on your system, your Windows system, and hold down the Window key, the Window key is located in the lower left hand side of your keyboard between the Control key and your Alt key. If you hold down the Window key and press the letter R, it brings up the Run box. The Run box looks like this, and you can go ahead and type in name of any program you want to run. I'll type in WinWord, that would start Word for Windows. I could type in PowerPunt, PowerPNT, and that would start the PowerPoint program. If you're an Access developer, you could go ahead and type in MS Access. That would start Microsoft Access. You could even come out here and just type in the word Calc, and that would start the calculator. But we want to go ahead and use this Run box, and we're going to go ahead and type in just EXCEL for Excel. And if Excel is installed and loaded properly on your Windows system, when you click OK, it should just fire up Excel. Now I see the workbook name up here at the top. This is called the title bar up here at the very top. You could go ahead and close the Excel program by coming out and clicking on the red X button here, which would close down the application. You could also come out here and click on the Control button. It's in the top left corner of your program windows, and when you click on this, you'll see the word command, or the command close, down here at the bottom, and next to it is the shortcut key Alt F4. If I go ahead and click on the close button, it would go ahead and close Excel, or just as you saw, you could go ahead and hold down your Alt key, press the F4 key, and that would also go ahead and close Excel. I'm going to go ahead and just fire up Excel by double clicking the sales revenue workbook, and Excel opens up and I'm able to see the name of the file up here at the top. I'm going to go ahead and explore the different components here of Excel. We have these things out here called ribbons, which contain the different commands that we use to make Excel function. We have a Home tab, which opens this Home ribbon. We have Insert, Page Layout, Formulas, Data, Review, View, Developer, Acrobat, so on and so forth. You may not have Acrobat, and you won't have Developer unless you ask Excel to turn on the Developer tab. But you should have View all the way down through the Home tab. And when you click on one of the tabs, you'll see the different commands out here. Now, all of the commands are also placed inside of groups, which is basically just a logical organization of the types of buttons that these are. For instance, we have the font group, the alignment group, the number group. If I go to formulas, I have the function library, define names group, formula auditing, and so forth. Back under each one of the groups, you'll see perhaps a little arrow icon in the lower right hand corner, and if you click on that, it'll actually open up a dialog where you can get into more advanced setup or operation of Excel for that group. I see the Format Cells dialog here as well. If I go to Alignment Group underneath the Home tab or the Home ribbon and I click on it, it opens up the Format Cells dialog where I could go ahead and work as well. Now they have a File tab out here, but it doesn't actually open up a ribbon. It just shows you what's called the backstage view of Excel. And this is where you can get out here and save your document as a different type other than Excel. You could save it as a PDF. You can come out here and look for recently opened files and go ahead and use those right here. You could create a new file. You can print from here if you'd like. You also can send this to a different program or a different user, but you also have options out here, and the options dialog under the backstage area is where you can customize the behavior of Excel. We'll take a look at this in just a moment when we work with the frequently used toolbar out here. In just a second, we'll take a look at that. I'm going to go out here and move a little farther down, and we'll see this thing called the Quick Access Toolbar. That's the name I was looking for. The Quick Access Toolbar is basically just a toolbar which contains all of your favorite little buttons from these different ribbons that you have out here. For instance, if I wanted to add a new item to my Quick Access Toolbar, I could come out here to, say, the Format Cells dialog. I could right-click it and choose Add Quick Access Toolbar, and it pops that in right here. And I could go ahead and I have all of my settings out here for cell styles. If I come out here to Format, and I pick something like Rename Sheet, I could right-click Rename Sheet and say Add to Quick Access Toolbar, and it shows up out here. And all I have to do is click here instead of going out and looking for it out here on the ribbon. So it's very handy if you're using a lot of different commands from a lot of different areas on the different ribbons. You can just take your favorites and load them up here this way just by right-clicking it and then coming out here and choosing Add to Quick Access Toolbar, and it'll just pop it out here at the end. Now the Quick Access Toolbar typically will be found up here at the top, and it's very abbreviated when you first start out, but you can go ahead and load it up if you'd like. I like to have mine down here underneath the ribbon, so at the very end of the Quick Access Toolbar, I click the drop down arrow and choose to show below the ribbon here, and it shows up down here at the bottom. Now other uses for the ribbon, people will come out here and if they double click one of these tabs, they'll hide the tab, and then they can just use the Quick Access Toolbar if they'd like. If they want to open it back up, they just pick a tab and double click it, and it opens back up the ribbon. It's just a way to save some space if you don't use or don't need all of these different commands. You can just load these up on the Quick Access Toolbar, and away you go. Now another way to modify the Quick Access Toolbar is to come out here to the little arrow at the end, click the drop down arrow, and choose More Commands. This will take you inside of the Excel Options dialog, where you could go ahead and you could add your commands manually from a list of, say, most popular commands. Now this box that you see here, this dialog, you can also get to it by coming out to the File tab and choosing Options, and then going under Quick Access Toolbar, and you will see that same dialog we were just in a moment ago. Now you could come out here and click on a given command from one of the ribbons here, and you could add this to your Quick Access Toolbar. You could click on a given item in your Quick Access Toolbar and you could remove it. You can also click on these items and reorganize them. So if you're not crazy about the order that they're in over here on the left hand side, you could go ahead and rearrange them this way. I'm going to go ahead and just take these guys out of here. I'm just going to remove these, and when I go ahead and click OK, you'll see I've abbreviated my Quick Access Toolbar here as well. Now moving on down the screen here, we have this area called the name box. And we'll talk about the use of this in the intermediate courses later on, where you can actually name a cell or name a range of cells, or actually name an object or a formula. And then this basically makes your formula creation much more abbreviated when you go ahead and use the name instead of the actual cell reference or the range reference. Right now you're interested here just to know that when you click on a given cell on the sheet, it will tell you here the column that you're on and the row that you're on. Now on the spreadsheet, you'll notice that all of the columns are labeled with a column header that has a letter inside of it, starting with A and rolling all the way out to the end. We have 64,000 columns out here inside of a spreadsheet. So when they get to the letter Z, it goes to AA and then AB and AC all the way out to the very end here. 64,384 columns to be exact. We also have 1 million rows in each one of these spreadsheets that we're using. So there's a huge area to work with here. And if I click on one of the cells, you can see the cell reference. I'm in column D, row 3 over here. Talk more about the name box later. In the middle here, we have this area called the Insert Function button. A function is just a predefined formula that you can use to go ahead and run calculations so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And Excel has over 300 different functions built in. Functions to be used for financial functions, date and time, math and trig, statistical. You can have functions that work with different types of text that you have. So there's all sorts of functions out here, and we'll cover that a little bit later on as well. This area here is called the formula bar, and it's probably the most important part of your spreadsheet. This will show you what's exactly inside of a cell when you click on it. If you have a formula or a calculation, you'll see that up here, whereas you'll just see the result down here. So even though it looks fairly empty and benign now, it's probably the most important area of the spreadsheet where you'll spend most of your time working, right here inside of the formula bar. A little farther down, we have our column headers out here labeled with the letters, as I mentioned before. We have all of our row headers out here on the left, which are labeled with numbers. And a little farther down, we have sheets. Each one of these sheets, as I mentioned before, has 1 million rows and 16,384 columns, which gives us 16 billion cells on each one of these sheets. And we can have virtually any amount of sheets we'd like to place on a workbook. For instance, if I'd like to add a sheet here, I could come out here and just click this little icon right here, and we can add a new sheet to the workbook. If I want to reorganize these sheets, I can just click them and drag them around. If I want to delete a sheet, I could come out here and right-click the sheet and choose delete, take it out. A little farther down, rather over here on the right, we have scroll bars where we can scroll back and forth. We can scroll up and down on the sheet if we'd like, so we can see different parts of the sheet. A little farther down, we have this area called the status bar, which I'm going to talk about in the next lesson. We see that it says ready over here on the left, which just is Excel telling you that it's ready to calculate. We don't have any problems. It's not any type of a mode waiting for you to do something. It's ready. It's ready to go. You can go ahead and start typing in numbers, text, and formula out here. A little farther out to the right, we have different ways to view a spreadsheet. I could click on what's normal view, which is the one you're normally going to use to type in text, numbers, and formulas. You have something out here called print preview, which will allow you to check the print layout ahead of printing, so you can actually see your headers, footers, margins, that sort of thing. We have another area out here called page break preview, which allows you to see the page breaks on a given sheet. Remember, they're very large. They're huge. 16 billion cells. Well, you have an 8.5 by 11 page, which is basically just like a cookie cutter, and you can come out here and you can change the page breaks between these pages inside of a sheet. It's perfect for printing if you'd like. Come back here to normal view. I can see the different, after doing that, I can come out here and see these dotted lines, which is currently just where the pages will currently break. It fills up an 8.5 by 11 page. A little farther out to the right, I see a zoom percentage. If you want to, you can zoom in on your spreadsheet or zoom out. If I slide the slider to the left, it zooms out. If I slide the slider to the right, it zooms in. Now, this doesn't change the size of your spreadsheet or the font's size at all. All it does is just magnifies the screen for your on-viewing pleasure. That's all. So a little easier to see up close, and if you want to back out, see more pages at once, you can zoom out. Typically, you'll be at 100% here, so that's just where I will go ahead and leave it. And that's just a quick introduction to the spreadsheet environment.